Good evening and welcome to the Fredonia Central School District Board of Education special meeting for Tuesday, May 3rd, 2022. At this time, I am going to ask my new best friend, Amelia Domenico, to come forward and say the Pledge of Allegiance with me. Amelia, can you come forward and lead us in the pledge? Okay, right up around here. Come on. This is my new best friend, Amelia. Amelia, you want to stand right here, and the flag is right up there. Can you lead us? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, Amelia.
Good job.
Thank you. So this is a special meeting in the budget hearing. So if I could have a motion to approve the agenda and bring that forward.
So moved.
Okay, and that's Ms. Hahn and Mr. Hawk at the same time. Any questions on that? All those in favor of approving the agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Wonderful. So we have a review of the required annual meeting documents. Ms. Slagle.
Thank you. So the official notice in the papers, item A, that is our legal notice, and the legal notice is required to be published in the local paper 4 times throughout the course of the time leading up to our budget vote. So I'll just briefly explain the legal notice. It explains when our budget hearing is, which is of course tonight, and then the date of the budget vote, which is Tuesday the 17th from 2 to 9 p.m. in our high school cafeteria. This election this year is to not only vote on the amount proposed for the budget for next year, but also for 2 at-large positions for the board. These are 2 full positions, so 2 full 5-year terms. And the legal notice also goes through the petition process, which has passed at this point. It explains information about military voters and absentee ballots. I wanted to bring your attention to one upcoming deadline, which is May 10th. So that would be the deadline to request an absentee ballot application, so that gives me enough time to mail that to anyone who needs an absentee ballot. All the information that I'm showing you right now on the legal notice is available on our website. We also have information about the budget vote, absentee ballots, etc. in our budget newsletter, which went to every household in the Fredonia district and is also available on our website and in each office of the school district. So essentially that is the legal notice. Again, it is published 4 times throughout the course of April and May leading up to the budget vote. And item B, qualifications of voters. You need to be a U.S. citizen. You must be 18 years or older on the day of the vote. And you must have legal residency of 30 days or more in the district on the day of the vote. Any questions?
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Slagle. Sure. Next, we have the presentation for the tentative budget for the 22-23 school year. Mr. Ziliak.
Again, a lot of hard work and dedication around this from our business office, our administrative team, our Board of Education. We appreciate all the input, all the conversation, all the dialogue around really putting forward a reasonable and responsible budget, keeping in mind maintaining our instructional program along with considering the taxpayers in our district. So John was going to review it one last time and share some information with us here as part of our special meeting tonight.
So the presentation title will be exactly the same presentation you saw at the last board meeting, because that's the point in time you adopted it. But I'll run through the slides for the benefit of anyone watching or here today. So total salaries and benefits, you're up 1.51%, or $342,000. You can see the breakdown between instructional, non-instructional, and benefits. Going to the next slide, the benefits, I'll point a couple things out here. You'll notice negatives in the employees' retirement system and unemployment insurance and long-term disability and group life insurance. Those are areas that I would typically carry additional funds, and as part of the reduction down to 1%, I had to trim those numbers back. And also, there is an increase in the teacher's retirement system based upon the rates that the retirement system gives the district, went from 9 to 9.8%. Within the budget, proposed budget, there are staff retirements, elementary teacher, 2 career teachers, 1 special education teacher, 1 music teacher, 1 computer teacher. You can see the reduction of salaries there. I've budgeted for 6 staff replacements in the budget, and also we have 4 of the 6 that were eligible for the retirement incentives within their union contract. Equipment, materials, and supplies, this would be instructional and non-instructional. Across the board, we're up $29,000 or 3.72%. Contractual expense and BOCES services, we're up $257,000, which is 3.81%. You can see BOCES services were up 4.13%, and actually that was reduced as well because we eliminated some of the extra slots that I carried for some of the special ed and alt ed positions. Next slide is a summary of our debt service. You can see it's broken out by principal and interest on the left-hand side, also by project. Basically, it's a very minimal change from the current school year, and that's based upon an amortized principal and interest statement as part of the borrowing of the bond on the Excel project. Taking a look at the revenue sources, you can see our state aid is up $668,000. Local sources is down $79,000. Federal aid is up $11,005, which is your Medicaid reimbursement. We reduced the amount of applied fund balance compared to the current year, down $127,000. And you can see our tax levy at 1% is up $162,199. At the bottom of the page, I broke out over the last 4 or 5 years the distribution of state aid is a percent of the budget versus the tax levy is a percent of the budget. And you can see that for the most part, it remains fairly consistent. State aid has been running somewhere between 41 and 43 for the most part, and tax levy between 51 and 52 or 53. So then showing the total proposed budget summary in balance, the top half is the expenditures. You can see about in the middle of the page, 3rd column, where it says draft 4, total is $31,930,024. And then the bottom half is the revenue and fund balance, which has to balance out to equal the expenditures in the top half. And again, that's $31,930,024. That represents a 2.03% increase in spending. This slide was just a reminder of how we got down to 1%. We made revenue adjustments of negative $5,434. We reduced the fund balance I had applied to 272, and you can see the distribution of additional cuts on the expenditure side at the bottom. In terms of comparative budget data, this goes back to 2014-15. You can see the 2.03% is almost exactly the same as the 2021-22, and again, that's the $31 million. The tax cap calculation for this year would have allowed us a tax levy increase of 1.12% without going to over 60% majority of the vote. We're at 1%, so we meet that requirement. If the budget were to be defeated twice by the voters, the district would still need to comply with the administrative cap, which this year would be 12.2%. The district is currently 36,000 under that cap, so we also are in compliance there. In terms of the tax levy limit, how the district has done, you can see the left-hand column, tax levy shows what your final levy was. The middle column shows what your tax levy limit could have been. And then the right-hand column shows the number of years you're below the cap. So 7 out of 11 years, the district has been below the tax cap. And this year it was 1% compared to 1.12%. Also within the proposed 2022-23 budget, we are including a $100,000 capital outlay as part of the New York State requirement for being able to do that. We need to, 1, say that we're doing it by publicizing that, and 2, include the original cost and revenue in the general fund budget. So we took a look at a number of things that were under consideration. We've kind of settled on the relocation of the Wheelock office as a secure entrance, some interior upgrades, and then if there's anything left, we're going to look at repairing a couple spots in the blacktop, and also there's a required New York State architect's fee that was part of the $100,000 project. And finally, the projected tax rates. The left-hand column represents what this proposed budget would be based on today, bearing in mind that that does not take into account any changes in assessed value in any of the towns, does not take into account any changes in the equalization rates across the towns. And as an example, you can see the two right-hand columns. At the budget vote last year, we were at $0 across the board, and then you can see the differences in the net final levy based upon those changes in equalization rate and assessed value. $1 per thousand in the town of Pomfret is $131,910. 1% in spending in this budget draft is $322,084, and 1% of the tax levy, as I mentioned a moment ago, is $162,199.
Okay. Any questions? If I could, Mr. Forbes, just thank you for your hard work on this. Mr. Ziliaks, the board, appreciate everything you've done. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, 7 out of 12 years, we were below the tax cap.
11, at or below.
7 out of 11.
At or below the tax cap.
Yeah. So I think that we're providing a quality education to our students, achieving the goals that we've set for our mission, vision, and core belief, and trying to get our students to be their best selves and do it within reason for our taxpayers. And I appreciate that. So if there's any questions from the public on the budget presentation? Nothing. We've got some seniors here tonight, too. Okay. Next, the report on the items to be voted upon at the special meeting of voters, and that will be May 17th. Correct?
Yep.
Ms. Slagle?
Yes.
Anything additional?
No. We've got the basic budget there, and then, as I stated before, the election is for 2 5-year full terms of office. Mr. Johnston and Ms. Hahn are running for those positions, so we thank them for that. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. So if I could, I need a motion for the proposition to be included on the budget vote for May 17th, as stated in your agenda. Ms. Gullo. And a second on that?
Second.
Mr. Johnston. Any questions on any of that? No? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. And now if we could get a motion to recess until the night of May 17th at 9 o'clock, when our voting is complete and we accept the results of the vote. If I could have a motion on that.
So moved.
Great. Mr. Marshall, and a second. Ms. Powell-Fortman. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Wonderful. So we are recessed on the special meeting until May 17th. Thank you. So we will go right into our regular Board of Education meeting for Tuesday, May 3rd, 2022. We have a proposed agenda as outlined. If I could, before we make a motion to bring it to the floor, On page 6, there is one small typo. Page 6, that's item number 7C2, and that should be an 11-month per year position. So as I'm asking for a motion to approve the agenda, it will have that change in that motion. So if I could have a motion on that, please, on bringing the agenda forward.
So
Ms. Hahn, and a second. Mr. Hawk. Is there anything anyone would like to pull out of the consent agenda?
A2 and personnel.
That's item number 7A2? Okay. Okay. Anything else? Okay. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Great. Before we get into hearing from the public, and I should have had this as part of the agenda, but I guess it doesn't matter. Mr. John, do you know what today is, Mr. Johnston?
May 3rd.
That's very good. Anything else, Ms. Gullo?
I failed.
Well, you did okay. Ms. Powell-Fortna, would you like to share with us what today is?
Teacher Appreciation Day?
Very good. You get the gold star for the day.
I thought it was the week.
No, this is Teacher Appreciation Week. Teacher Appreciation Day, I believe. National?
Typically both.
Is it typically both?
It's both, but.
Okay,
except for something
well,
both.
I'm still studying up on the subject, so, so
Because you appreciate her all year.
if you know a teacher that has had an impact on your life, this is the week to thank them. Right, Mr. Paskey?
Yes, it is.
Yes. Okay.
And just as a side note, we have really come to use this week as a faculty and staff and educator appreciation week across the board. So
I'll take
that would
that.
include anyone else who's
I'll
employed
take
by our
that.
district, who serves our children in whatever capacity their job
I'll take that.
responsibilities might be. So
Yeah, yeah.
that includes yourself.
Well, okay, so we've reserved this time to hear from the public. The board has reserved this time to hear comments from the audience. Those wishing to address the board are asked to stand, give their name and address, and limit their comments to 5 minutes or less per individual or group. Is there anyone who would like to address the board on anything of the agenda? Okay, we'll move along then. We have a special presentation from our middle school art department. Mr. Ziliax, would you like to introduce Ms. Sheldon?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, thank you so much to everybody who's here tonight, and thanks for the families who were kind enough to make this happen and participate. Part of our district goals this year is to increase the amount of information that's shared at this meeting regarding what's going on in each of our buildings. Tonight, our focus is middle school art. Absolutely, Ms. Sheldon, we absolutely appreciate you being here, and thanks for leading this effort tonight. And we are excited to hear about our middle school art program and what is happening in this content area. So
All right.
whenever you are ready, take it away.
Well, thank you. We are all a little nervous, so I'm going to apologize ahead of time. My name is Mackenzie Sheldon. This is my 4th year with the district, but I am a Fredonia alumni, class of 2011. I teach middle school, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and I have my art club, some of who are with me. This is our 4th year with me leading art club, and we were virtual last year, so being able to be back in person and working together has been great. I have 45 members in total, so this is like very, very small grouping of my art club. We do a rotating schedule. I see my 5th graders 1 Tuesday, and the following week is 6, 7, and 8. That just allowed me to keep the club that big. I apologize, like I said. A little nervous. And these guys are the kids who are really dedicated. So I see every student every year. The part-time teacher does have some of my 8th graders, but by 8th grade I've had them 5, 6, and 7, so I've seen them. And they are the ones who come during study hall. They come after school. They've been working with me on Fridays on this mural project, and they're really the ones who enjoy being there and creating. So I'm also a SUNY Fredonia alumni as well. I graduated in 2015, and that's been really great, just being able to interact with that part. I'm sorry, you're like staring at the post. So, let me see. Oh.
Is that not working?
Did I kill it on accident? I'm sorry.
I got you.
All right, so this was the art club stuff. So like I said, 45 members. The other thing that I wanted to just touch on, these guys also were part of the memory project. We got that grant for that through the BOCES Art and Ed. And they created inspiration artworks for children living in orphanages in Cameroon and Nigeria. So this is like our second big project that we've gone into so far. Next slide for me, please. Oh, that skipped one. It jumped. There we go. So after talking with Paula about this awesome mural idea that we had, I reached out to Peter Tucker, who is actually one of my professors, and the students, or the father of one of my students in art club. And I was matched up with the students from the Art Forum, which is a club I was actually a member of on campus, which is pretty cool. And Angeline is here, as well as another one of our members who has been helping us with the students working. So our goal was to bring in college role models for our students so that they could see how artists create. I mean, especially at the middle school level, it can be really hard. How do we brainstorm? How do I get our ideas? How do we get it from our heads onto paper, and then from on paper onto, this mural is 8 foot by 4 foot. So like that is a big scale, something that they're not used to working in their sketchbooks. So we have been working together on this mural since February-ish. It got kind of crazy with spring breaks and I got COVID, so like it's been a little bit of time to get here, but we got here. So every student attended our 2 meetings, 5th grade and then 6, 7, and 8, and everybody who was there got to submit a mural idea. And we looked at those together and we said, what out of these do we think is important? What do we want to use in our final idea? So the students all gave our ideas. I have tons of notes. I took lots of notes about it. And we moved forward with that. Could you go to the next slide for me, please? So I included this one just because these characters you see, created original characters by one of our 7th grade students, are going into our final mural. And she drew them on this 8 foot by 4 foot scale, which is crazy. And she came in during study hall and just worked, and I was like, all right, Rosemary, you just do your thing. If you need me, let me know. And so she has brought those characters to life. If you could go to the next slide, please. So this was our final idea that we ended up coming up with. So that was my very sad attempt to bring her characters onto the new paper. And then we talked about what is important. What in your middle school career do you want to show everybody is important? So we have sports. We have different subjects that they really like. We have musical instruments. And this did get bigger, as you'll see when we go to the next slide. So that was us talking. Angeline, I don't know when you want to talk, so if you just want to come up and talk when you're ready, let me know. So just working on this mural together. So that was really early in the process, just getting our background in. Next slide, please. And more background work. So this has been every Tuesday, every Friday, sometimes during study hall. Next slide, please. And we started getting that orange in, which is really nice and bright. Next slide. Trying to see. And then they started blocking in their color today. One more. So that was last Friday, Wednesday maybe. So last Wednesday, as you can see, we have our characters over on the left. And we started thinking, because we really liked your animal characters. We were like, well, we wanted it to represent middle school. And we were like, we all know a middle school student who might be a little bit of a Tasmanian devil. Or a dragon, right? So we were like, we can put those characters in and give them those aspects of people and really bring them in and add them in as characters. And if you go to the next slide, that is where we are as of today. So our hope is to have it hung up early June would be my guess. They've been working really hard, and we have to paint in groups of 3 and 4 just because there are so many of them and they all want to paint, but it's not big enough. So next time we'll do more than one so I can have more of them working at a time. And the words we included are our pride words for the middle school, as well as some other important words like inclusion and create and excellence and family and just words that the students gave us. Those are all words that they gave us to include. So, do you guys want to talk first? Anthony, do you want to talk first?
Yeah, sorry, I apologize, my allergies are acting up. It's not COVID, I swear. But I don't want to be gross. So, this has been a really great experience, not only I hope for the kids, but also for us to learn from them as well. And we've been really enjoying our time. It's like a nice break from the chaos that is at the school to come here and just like hang and talk to the kids about what art they like to do, what they like to draw, what's in their sketchbook, what is it that they enjoy doing. So I think like we're also taking away like so much as I hope that they are too. And I think that the environment that Ms. Sheldon is like providing for them is really important because my school didn't have a lot of art, but I still came to school for art because my high school teacher had such an influence on me. So I hope that this is something that these kids remember and like hopefully influence their choices when they pick what they want to go to school for. Maybe it already has. So I think that like these countertops are crazy. Like I love seeing all the stuff in here because I never had any of that. So to be painting and like working with kids on this level has been really like a great experience. And I hope that it continues to, you know, blossom into something that continues over and over again. So we're really grateful for the experience overall.
We are hoping to continue with our project. All right, so I also brought some students to share how they feel, because I think their words are more important than mine. So,
All right. Hi, I'm Lainey Ashlock. You might have seen me here before because I presented when we worked with the writing department with the college. I'm just going to talk a bit about how much I really liked working specifically with the art department. It's probably been my favorite project we've worked with the college so far. It's just, the college students are so like nice and accepting, so easy to talk to, and I've really enjoyed it so far. I haven't been to many of the art club meetings, but really nice. It feels like I'm going to be leaving a mark here on Fredonia with that mural because it's going to be hanging up in the middle school for who knows how long. And I'm just really thankful that we get to do something like that.
Great.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Amelia Domenico, and I had a really good time painting the mural, and I really like painting the background, and I accidentally painted a part on the elephant, which was very sad.
it was good.
Yeah.
We're good.
Yeah. That's okay. Yeah.
That's okay.
Hi, I'm Addie Stilrecht, and my favorite part has been painting the background of the college kids and like learning what they do for college and like what they majored in. Hi, I'm Sigrid Ellefson, and I really enjoyed how they shared their experiences on like what they did, like what types of arts they did, and I also enjoyed doing the background with them and hearing all their stories. Hi, I'm Meredith Marshall. That's my dad.
She looks smart.
Be warned.
And I really enjoyed sending the pictures that the art club has done just to the kids who are in Nigeria.
And I know that the skills that we're building in our students is really important, and I know that you guys are seeing just like a snippet of my art club, but collaboration and creativity and problem solving, including elephants that get the wrong color, are all things that we work on together, and we're working on those in the classroom every day as well. So the art club, we can do a little bit more because we do have that extra time and those other materials, but it would be really cool if eventually I could do this with my kids too in class. So that could be something I look forward to in the future, trying to plan as well. So thank you guys very much.
Any questions
to see the work and the dedication. And I just got to ask a question to the kids. Does this help you relax during the day to move on to the next
Yeah.
group of classes?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Nice. Great job.
So I'm curious for Fredonia State students, this is not a student-teacher type of a situation, but you're actively involved with the kids. And from listening to the kids, you're having a big impact on them. Is teaching what you're looking at, or because you're sharing so many different, it sounds like you're sharing a lot of different experiences in art, and they're gaining a totally different perspective.
Me personally, no, I don't want to go into teaching.
Okay.
I already have my career set once I go home, so this is just kind of a bonus, honestly. I'm just making community outreach and more connections before I leave. So, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily teaching either, but I mean, in high school and middle school, one big thing for me was always seeing the older kids and learning from them. That was always something that stuck with me when I was younger. So when I'm able to, I like to interact with kids in our communities. I do that back at home, and I want to continue doing that here while I'm at school.
Okay. Well, thank you both, because obviously each one of the kids has said what an impact that you've had on them. So I appreciate you doing that. And I think from the writing campaign that was mentioned earlier, this is just such a great opportunity to be working with students from Fredonia State. And, thank you very much, Ms. Sheldon, for including that aspect of this. It's wonderful. Thank you. Anything else? Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have the minutes from the special meeting on April 11th. Can I have a motion to bring that to the floor for approval? Ms. Powell, and a second?
Second.
Mr. Johnston. Any questions, amplifications, comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Next, we have the Financial Treasurer's Report and the Budget Status Report from Mark. Mr. Forbes.
So for the budget status reports we've talked about on numerous occasions, I just kind of update it every month, look through the different codes, track and see how we're doing in comparison. One of the things that we've noticed in the last 2 months, maybe 3 months, is that there's been a fairly decent uptick in the utility cost. So that probably, at the end of the year, natural gas and electric are going to probably be exceeding what we originally appropriated. So reflection of what's going on around the world, I guess. And then also, some of the special education costs were up, which I think I mentioned along the way, in particular out-of-district placements. We had one out-of-district location that was 2 students to start, and we're up to, I believe, 7 now. So we're a sizable increase in costs there. We do get the offset of aid in the subsequent year because it's categorical aid for high-cost special ed. But initially, you have to front that amount of funds. And then also, much like the utility costs, we've seen an uptick in the fuel costs, the diesel costs for the buses. So we're right now tracking about $26,000 below budget. With 3 months to go, I think you're probably going to end up being pretty tight there as well. So just some of the things that I look at as I go through the report.
Okay. Any questions on that? Thank you for the dashboard. It really consolidates what we're looking at, and I appreciate that tremendously, Mr. Forbes.
And that, I'll point out, since you mentioned it, has been updated to reflect this budget status report and also what the final budget number was in comparison across there.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. The revenue status report for March.
Quite a bit of activity. We had 3.8 million in basic formula aid, which is typical. It either comes in late March or early April. And this year it came in late March. It's expected payments, what they call a spring sustaining advance payment. For the April, May, June, they give you the lump sum up front. We had an additional 109,000 in lottery aid, which was reflective of 50,000 in the VLT supplemental aid, and also 59,000 in what they're calling the COG gaming aid, both of which are lottery-based aids. We also received 63,000 in textbook aid, 24,000 in hardware, computer hardware aid, 13,000 in computer software aid, and 8,600 in our library loan program aid. So quite a busy month in terms of revenue coming in for state aid.
Okay. Any questions on the, yes?
I do have a question. We talked briefly about this, and it's really about $20.41. In the general fund balance at the end of February, we had roughly 2.4 million, to which we made $20 interest. Seems insane to me that that's such a minuscule amount, but is that normal, given that it's a checking account?
Yeah, we have regular conversations with the multiple banks that we use, and in some of the accounts, and I don't know offhand if that one's one of them, but in some of the accounts, they also put back the charges that the accounts generate for day-to-day activity. And for example, general fund, typically we link the other accounts to that so that the other accounts aren't reflecting each month. The general fund gets charged that because the charges arrive there anyway. So that tends to bring down the amount of interest you earn. As we all know, the rates have been horrible.
Yeah.
We've seen an increase probably the last 3 weeks. Just had a conversation late last week with M&T Bank, who's our primary bank. You may recall, some of the board may recall anyway, that in the past we've used treasury notes or certificates of deposit or repurchase agreements as a way to put money out for 30 days or 45 days, whatever the number is, and try to generate that extra revenue. We're to the point now, it should be the first time in about 2.5 years, that we're probably better off to do that than just let it sit in the account. So yeah, the interest has been terrible. If you went back when the rates were high 10, 15 years ago, we were generating several $100,000 a year in interest revenue, and we're barely going to be at probably 10 grand for this year. So.
Thanks.
Yeah. State of the economy. Plus, the money that we have in there isn't worth as much because of inflation too. So, yeah. Any other questions? Okay. If I could have a motion to approve the Treasurer's Report for March 2022. Okay, Ms. Gallo. And a second.
Second.
Mr. Marshall. The Treasurer's Report, everything jives.
Well, actually, Mr. Marshall's question kind of came off the Treasurer's Report as well, so
Okay.
Everything's good. So.
The debits are the credits.
Yep.
Yes, okay. Any other comments on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We have 2 transportation contracts. The first one is for a student from Brockton who foster residence is in Brockton at $125 a day with first student. Could I have a motion to bring that to the floor, please?
So
Ms. Hahn, and a second.
Second.
Ms. Gullo? All right. Any questions on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Next, we have another 31-day emergency transportation bid. This one is for a temporary residence in Westfield at $400 a day. Can I have a motion to bring that to the floor, please? Ms. Paul Fortna, and a second.
Second.
Mr. Marshall. I'm apologize, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here. Just to maybe talk about both of these, because we did have some discussions on this.
Yeah.
And it's, these 31-day emergencies are turning into, 3-4 month bids. And I guess at the time we made a decision based on the information we had at that time, and
Sure, yeah, yeah. So, just speaking in general, each year, we have a variety of situations that come up. And we try to be as flexible as possible while keeping the welfare and the good of the students in mind. Occasionally, we do have a student who might be placed at a temporary residence outside of the school district. That could be attached to foster care. That could be associated with the McKinney-Vento legislation, which is outlined for a student who may find themselves in a homeless situation, and the district of the place where they were attending school maintains responsibility for a student in that situation. So we do the best that we can to have an accurate reflection of what's happening on the board agenda. So sometimes we believe that this will be a temporary situation, and sometimes those things get extended for a longer period of time. At this point in the school year, when something maybe has gone a little bit longer than we think, we start to get into the conversation of, so with 5, 6, 7 weeks to go in the school year, would we put a student in a scenario of having to register at a new school district for a short period of time? And oftentimes, we come to the conclusion that that would not be in the best interest of the student, and we try to be flexible for these last few weeks. The end of the school year and the beginning of a new school year brings a natural break where if a scenario seems to be becoming permanent, then there's a discussion about making that transition at that point in time, which it wouldn't be as awkward or disruptive to the education of the student. So we are constantly monitoring these situations and, in the end, trying to do the right thing. I also want to point out that Mr. Forbes is great about looking at a variety of different ways to achieve and maintain our responsibility for transportation, connecting with other runs that we have currently in place, connecting with runs of other districts, and he goes through that process each time. So whenever something does come to the agenda, it's gone through several iterations of how this might be able to be achieved, and eventually we get to the one that will work. And that does keep in mind in different programs, different places, different schools have start and end times that differ. So in moments, although we could tap into a run of our own or run into another district, that might get the student arriving at school 45 minutes late, an hour late, needing for them to be picked up early, sometimes an hour, 45 minutes. And over the course of multiple weeks, that would be a lot of instruction the student would miss. So that is also a factor in our decision-making. And sometimes that's just not feasible to connect with those other runs, knowing the specifics of the start and end time of that student's particular day, wherever they might be attending school. So all that is in play each time you see one of these come forward, and please know that at the end of the day, we're trying to maintain some consistency, some continuity for the student, and make sure they continue to receive a quality education. So.
thank you. Yes.
Dr. Zoix, I appreciate all the work you and Mr. Forbes do to try to work with other schools to lower the cost, and you've been successful many times. But say in a situation where you can't, and it's a singleton student, what's the method of, and maybe you don't know this, so I apologize, but on the spot, but what's the method of transportation to get that child and bring that child to school? Is it like a 60-passenger bus? Is it a 12-passenger bus, an SUV?
It depends on where it lands. Some of them we're able to use smaller vehicles, some of them we can't. It just depends who's got what available. And it's been hard this year with the driver shortages as well.
Do we have a fleet of smaller vehicles for this situation?
I wouldn't call it a fleet. We have 1 or 2 small buses as part of the first student group, and then Corvus has a number of smaller buses as part of their operation. So the one they're using right now from Westfield is some kind of small van. Certified.
12-passenger? Or
probably like a caravan kind of thing.
Okay. So, I mean, that would lower cost, right, if we transport them with,
Potentially, but we've seen this year
vehicles.
in a number of the runs that the costs have been bumped both by the need for the companies to pay more for their drivers and the increase in fuel costs. So although it shows on the expense side, as an example here tonight, we've got one that's $400 a day, you're also getting your aid ratio back against that. At the end of the day, it's going to still cost you more than it might have a year or two ago, but you're not paying out the 400 with nothing coming back.
Are the vans ours or are they for students?
We don't have any vans as a district, so it would be first student or whoever else we're using at the time.
Okay, yeah.
And just a clarification for the board on the 31-day contract, because I know it seems like we've had more of those than perhaps we normally would. So in a situation where you have either the Foster placement or the McKinney-Vento placement, the first goal is that we need to have transportation like now. And the way to do that is to get a 31-day contract, which allows you to circumvent the bid process. The state allows you to do that while you get that contract in place. And in both of these cases, we did the first one, and we thought perhaps things would get better and we wouldn't need the second one. And it turned out in both cases we did need the second one. And then for your D1 today, you're actually now doing the rest of the school year as a non-31 day because we've realized that that was going to go at least till the end of the school year. The second one, we weren't clear based on what the family was telling us about their opportunity for housing. So we put the second one in just to say that we're covered. I may be coming back with a short bid for 3 weeks in June for that family. But each one tends to be different. And initially, when you get the first 31-day contract, you're given the information. It's going to be quick, it's going to be good, you need a few days, and then as things roll along, there's court proceedings, there's family issues, and then they become longer.
As I say, we make a decision the first time based on the information we have at that time, and it doesn't always hold.
Yep.
Yeah. Were you thinking of like a retirement gig with your van, you know?
Sounds good.
I was gonna say, it's a good gig.
It's a good gig. Set up my fleet.
Yeah. Maybe you could get a two-seater bike.
I have to talk to my wife about
Okay.
that.
Okay, any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Next, we have the approval of a contract between the district and Erie One BOCES. If I could have a motion to bring that to the floor, please. And a second.
Second.
Ms. Hahn. Mr. Ziliak.
Yeah, this is a continuation of an existing arrangement, and we did add some additional rental charge here, just in the thought of inflation and prices increasing. Again, when we have an outside agency, in this case BOCES, in the classroom, within one of our buildings, there is also some benefits to us. It's also part of being a good neighbor, and when BOCES reaches out and says they need a space, we consider that. But oftentimes in this case, with a person who can offer tech support and tech integration, they have an office, people know where they are, it's sort of settled in the building, and it's helpful to just the smooth running of those services that we buy into as a school district. So, there's a little bit of benefit for us, and there's also this idea of just working with our BOCES and being open to assisting them in their want or need for space.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
The only question I have is that does reflect an increase from previous months?
Yep, John,
About
did you wanna
3%.
speak to this?
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Next, we have a resolution for the capital outlay project as indicated here. There's no motion second on this, but we still need one. Yes, I'm sure we do. if we're voting on it, yeah. So if I could have a motion for this capital outlay. Mr. Hawk. And a second.
Second.
Mr. Marshall? And again, Mr. Ziliak, if I could have you
Yep.
go over this.
Yeah, so, first of all, the resolution itself is created by our district attorney, and it's probably looks a little more complex than it needs to be. We also had an opportunity for some of our board members to spend some time at Wheelock recently, and we had a lot of good dialogue and conversation about, where do we see the Wheelock School going in the future, and what do we see as its primary purpose. And I think we'll be revisiting conversations around that and having a chance to gather some input from Mrs. Piper as well, which will be important. But in the meantime, we've recognized some needs there that we would like to address sooner than later. One of them is securing the entrance, making the transition. That's room 203. That is located right by, close enough, yeah, right by the front entrance, or the main, what appears to be the main entrance of Wheelock. And that would really put us in a position to have eyes on anyone who would come into the district, would give us a bank teller window similar to what you see in our other offices here, where there can be dialogue and interaction between one of our school personnel and someone coming to the district. There'd be a way to exchange paperwork or a license for our Raptor system, and ultimately would be our call whether to buzz the person into the building or not, based on whatever that conversation is. So this would be a definite upgrade from where things currently stand. Within that, again, $100,000, there could be some room for some other things. There's some conversation about the fire panel, there's some conversation about some paving, additional paving at Wheelock. And the nice thing about this resolution is that this does not lock us in to any one of those things. In my mind, those are an ongoing conversation, an ongoing dialogue between our admin team and the Board of Education to eventually land on what we absolutely believe are our priorities at this time. But for now, it's just saying we're earmarking $100,000 for the purpose of an Outlay project, and this gives us that amount available. Mr. Forbes, I don't know if there'd be anything relevant to add there or not.
No, you pretty much covered it.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. Ms. Slagle?
This is a roll call vote. Mr. Aldridge?
Yes.
Mr. Hawk?
Yes.
Mr. Marshall?
Yes.
Ms. Hahn?
Yes.
Ms. Balfour?
Yes.
Ms. Gallo?
Yes.
And Mr. Johnston?
Yes.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Next, we have the approval of the appointment of Sean Howard as the 2022 summer driver education teacher. Salary will be per the FTA contract. Can I have a motion to bring that to the floor, please? Mr. Hawk, and a second.
Second.
Ms. Powell-Fortner. Mr. Ziliak, I was kind of hoping that we would have a former driver ed teacher appointed to this, but I heard that his previous students didn't make a good mark for him. But anyway.
Well, we are, first of all, happy to offer this to our students. No joking aside, it's getting more and more difficult for districts to find a certified driver ed teacher. So that's a challenge in some areas. Thankfully, we have Mr. Howard available, and we appreciate him being willing to support this effort again. We also had Mr. Paschke reach out to Basil Automotive, and they have agreed to donate a vehicle for this purpose, which they've done in the past. And we want to absolutely formally recognize them here tonight as being a good neighbor and a good part of the school community. And and assisting us in that effort. Again, we don't own any vehicles outright that would be appropriate for this purpose. So this is a huge advantage to us and a great gesture on their behalf in support of our district.
Yeah. How many, do you know off the top of your head how many years Basil's done this?
I think this is the 4th year. We had 2 years off with COVID. We didn't do car.
Okay.
No, I take it back. Yeah, 4 years. 4 years.
Yeah.
2016 was the first year that we did it with them.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, as a district taxpayer and as a board member, I would like to thank Basil and make it known that this donation means a lot to the district.
Definitely.
Very generous.
Yes. Okay. Any other questions?
Just FYI, for something like this, Ms. Slagle and I usually follow up after approval with a letter to anybody who donates or offers something, some service to the district, thanking them in recognition and appreciation.
And include the board on that if you would, please.
Sure.
Great. Anything else? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Great. Next, Superintendent's Report.
Yeah, a couple things for this evening. I wanted to start off by just taking a look. You'll see that our instructional calendar for next year is on the agenda, and I just wanted a chance to review. No major changes from what we've done in the past. You'll see that next year we'll start on the last day of August and the first day of September with faculty and staff only. Those would be in-service conference days. And then after Labor Day, we would begin on that Tuesday, September 6th, as our first official day of the school year. October brings a couple things that are typically in our schedule. That October 7th day is a go-home early drill. That's only about 15 minutes or so. But that's something that BOCES has asked that we do, and has politely requested that we do this across our BOCES on the same day. So that's the day that's been designated. We continue with our parent-teacher conferences on 2 half-days later on in October. You'll see November, really no changes or anything drastically different from what's there in the past, some holidays, but everything else straightforward instructional days. Same with December, and you'll see our break there. I got a few questions about the Monday, January 2. Why would that be off if we're kind of past the holiday and the first, and in several of our contracts, there is a reference to having the day after holidays off, so that's why the 2nd is there. And you'll see we haven't typically had a in-service day or a conference day in January at the end of the semester, but I think there's a good breaking point in the school year to regroup, wrap up things from the first semester and or prep things for the beginning of the second half of the school year. In February, again, we have opted not to have a February break, as a lot of districts do, but we do have that Monday off, as well as a conference day the following day, which creates a little bit of not necessarily a break, but a gap there. If families are looking to do something, there are some days available there for students. March, again, that's our second round of parent-teacher conferences, as well as our last conference day or in-service day for the year. April, we again do have our 2-week break. May, everything typically there. And in June, we have had some conversation with the FTA. There's always been a little bit of of discussion and what could be perceived as a discrepancy between the end of the school year for high school faculty and staff that are involved in Regents Week, for middle school that's involved in end-of-the-year final exams, and also for elementary school, although they're not involved in those things, whether it's Wheelock or the elementary school itself. But there are several tasks that are important to the end of the school year. So we've looked to kind of balance that out, and from a technical point of view, you would see there that on the 22nd, there is an additional half-day there for the elementary Wheelock and 1 through 4, which sort of brings them more in line with what's happening across the district. So just FYI on those things. Again, for next year, we have 3 emergency days built into the calendar. As contract dictates, if we did not use those days, there would be a give back for those days, which you see in the lower left-hand corner of the draft here. And again, by contract with the FDA, we have 5 in-service days or superintendent conference days, which you see listed there as well. So, any questions, comments, concerns about this first read? We would not approve the calendar officially until our next regular meeting.
I just have a question on the January Regents Week. Do kids attend?
So that's an ongoing discussion with the high school admin as well as our teachers. So in the past, we have not held our typical classes. This past year, we did. That definitely is more of a trend with not many Regents exams being given. We haven't made a final decision on that for this school year. That will be, or for next school, that will be a conversation. But I think we've realized that especially over the last couple of years with shutting down 2 years ago and being on hybrid model for the some of last school year, we are certainly looking to maximize in-person full days for our students.
Right.
And that will be part of the discussion.
Yeah, I was curious about that, knowing that they did attend this week, or, yeah, this week, this year. So I was curious what the feedback was on that.
We want to make sure we're being collaborative and, having an open dialogue about that. And we'll keep you posted.
There were no Regents exams this year in January. And this coming calendar, there were plans to take exams.
Right.
Dr. Ziliaks, could you just speak to the 2 week in April, 1 week in February, BOCES, and just acknowledge kind of where we are as a district in being aligned to that calendar, and obviously that we're aware, we take that into account, but the implications of that for some of our BOCES students. And
Yeah. So our admin team had a discussion about that, and that's certainly a concern because our calendar is slightly different from the BOCES calendar. And I don't think there's a right or wrong answer here. Some districts have chosen to have a February break during President's Week, and some have not. Most in this area have now transitioned to a February break and only a week or a week and a day in April, which really brings into questions 4 days in terms of students who might be attending BOCES on some level. For students, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mrs. Farrell, the students who are attending any type of special education program continue to attend during that time. Students involved in CTE or other programs of that nature have the option to attend, but are not necessarily mandated to do so. I don't know if we have any sense this year how many students did attend or not. I know we talked about that briefly in I didn't follow up on it.
We did offer busing, and there were quite a few kids at the bus. I was pleased, because some years we've done this where the bus comes and sits there for 20 minutes, no one gets on it, and then it goes back to the first. But the kids did take advantage of it this year. You know, and part of it, I think, was better communication. I think that Mr. Pagan at BOCES and I both spent a little bit more time reassuring the kids and letting them know there is transportation, we can get you to BOCES. They need to get a ride here to get the bus. We don't go to their house to pick them up, but you know, some parents dropped them off. Our seniors certainly drove, so that there was a much stronger attendance this year than there have been in past years.
Good. Sure. Okay. Any other updates?
Yeah, I just wanted to share real quick. So I think last week, this was the first week that we missed a weekly update. So this week is packed. There's a lot of great information in there. I'm thinking in our roundtable, a lot of those things will come to light, so I don't want to take away from anybody's comments there. As Mr. Aldrich mentioned, to start, absolutely we want to recognize our teachers and our staff for everything they do in the district and in the SMORE. I just kind of rattled off a number of attributes that seem to be in play across the district in terms of people really putting in time and effort and being dedicated and being resilient and being resourceful and being collaborative and communicating and really demonstrating excellence in their work. So again, one last time, thank you to everybody for what you do for the district and for our students and for our families. Lastly, you get to this end point in the year, there's a million things happening, especially at the secondary level, but also across the board. And I think it's a nice time to just reflect on our updated mission, vision, and core beliefs. And someone said to me, when we are focused on these pieces of the puzzle, we're stronger as a district. And when we're all on the same page and we're all moving in the same direction, that's a really position of strength for the district. So despite everything going on and the excitement of the end of the school year, but also sometimes the stress and the tension that the end of the year brings, I would just want to refocus everybody on those core things that we're really thinking about, the idea of learning, exploring, individuals becoming their greatest self, really thinking about those innovative pathways towards dynamic and innovation that lead to just great educational experience for our students. And absolutely, our core beliefs that, again, we fall back on when we're making decisions, when we're thinking about behavior that we see from either adults or students in the building, and really encouraging everybody just to live by those core beliefs. So I didn't have anything else, but just, kind of thanking everybody and also kind of regrouping for the home stretch here.
Yes.
That's it.
Thank you. We have another opportunity here from the public, and it doesn't appear that anybody's interested in that. So,
So could I ask a question, just from my own knowledge as a district member?
sure.
So do we have bike safety classes for kids? As to the younger kids, now the better weather is coming about, especially understanding blind spots and, things of that nature.
It's funny you bring that up, because Tim Kappelman just approached me about doing a bike safety course or something like that. So he just talked about trying to set something up at, we like him, I think, at the elementary school as well, to do some bike safety things. He's also working on car safety too. Car safety seats and doing some checks and things, so, yeah. Good question, we're working on it.
I would just tag on to that, it wouldn't hurt at the middle school or the high school for bike safety.
I'll pass it on.
Please, right? Instead of just the parents pounding them or,
Duly noted.
Do we ever take advantage of the center there at Asheville, BOCES?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. for field trips, and they did a lot of virtual opportunities for students and teachers this year too. So.
I know I've seen kids on bikes, and, you know, it's a little
If
city.
you haven't been, it's the coolest place.
Yeah.
They drive little cars.
So what grade would that be?
In the past, first grade always
First
went, but I know it's been virtual, so I don't know if they've gone in the last couple of years.
We didn't do it the past couple of years, so.
Yeah, get back on track with that. Yeah, they train some different ways they help that with. Great.
That's a great comment, thank you. Thank you. So the next board meeting will be on May 17th, 9 o'clock at high school cafeteria, where we will certify the vote. And that's just continuation of the special meeting. After that, we have June 7th as our next scheduled regular Board of Education meeting, right before graduation. Mr. Hawk, do you have any other good questions or comments? Nothing tonight. How about a teacher that had an impact?
So I would have to say Mrs. DeJoe.
Mrs. DeJoe?
She's the one that sent me to shop class.
You know, and I guess I will ask the board, for the one teacher that had an impact, and I will tell you, Mrs. Deacon, an English teacher. She was one of those people who had a tremendous amount of patience with me. There were other teachers who didn't have patience with me. They had tough love, which was just as good, but Mrs. Deacon was an exceptional. Ms. Balfour? Any comments, or who's your special teacher?
Well, I was going to comment with a graduating senior. It does, and decision day, kind of give the opportunity to pause and reflect on 14 years, and, you know, I think we're going to make it, right? Last 6 to 7 weeks here, and, you know, those 14 years in the district, really fantastic experience at every building, really great teachers, and really a lot to be thankful for as we're approaching this milestone.
Yeah.
And I would say for my teachers that some might remember, Mrs. Ruckman, who taught English here, 12th grade English, and then Mrs. Sullivan, who was a PE teacher, but also student council advisor, and ran into her at the high school musical, and just, you know, great to have those reunions.
Yeah. Ms. Gullo?
Well, my teacher is an Olean Husky, so I don't know if he's welcome at this table.
Absolutely.
But I would say Mr. Howley. Yeah. No. Mr.
On track right now.
Mr. Howley?
Yeah, Mr. Howley, middle school English teacher, and we diagrammed sentences is my favorite. Very fun. I love it. Yeah, I would agree. We both, you know, we had a COVID senior, we have one this year. To get that senior packet was a little bit of a, but it's nice to see mostly back to normal, keeping a couple COVID traditions. That's kind of cool, so looking forward to it. Bittersweet for sure.
Mr. Johnston?
Well, I'd like to thank the administration this week for Teacher Appreciation because, you know, having a wife who teaches, all kinds of things are happening for the teachers this week, and includes food, a lot of food, so it's always a good thing. So thank you for that. I'm sure they appreciate it. Well, I'm a Brockton grad, and Mr. Emma, Mr. Hawk would know, earth science teacher. I was quite a loose student, and he was a taskmaster.
He was.
And he taught me discipline. So I thank him. He was my role model. And I became an earth science teacher because of him. So.
Wasn't because of your dad?
And my father. He was a taskmaster too. Anybody that's been to Fredonia knows.
Yeah, your dad was my earth science teacher.
My dad was a man of few words, but you listen to those words.
So he was a teacher who influenced your life?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
Mr. Marshall?
I would thank all of the people along the way. I have 3 children in the district, well, one's gone now, but every step of the way, everything has been awesome, and even when there were problems and hiccups, the communication, it's just been great, so a thank you to everybody. My teacher, mine would have been an Orchard Park Quaker, so, mine was a 3rd grade teacher who one day took my desk and tipped it upside down and shook it because I was a terrible mess, just unorganized, and she said, enough of that, we're changing. And I changed, mostly, from that day forward. So Mrs. Smith.
I want to express my appreciation to the staff and teachers and everyone who works in the school. I don't know if we're allowed to mention anyone specifically. Could I? My son, I asked him if there was someone in particular that he was grateful for, and he said Mr. Conti. And that touched my heart because he has a nonprofit that's so beautiful.
Yes, he does, for his brother.
So, love Mr. Conti. And for me, it was my 4th grade teacher, Mr. McCauley, at Smallwood Drive Elementary School in Snyder, and he just did amazing things I'll never forget. We each created our own language in groups and then had to decipher each other's language. We navigated as pilots latitude and longitude around the country. We had just unbelievable projects every step of the way, so I'll always remember him fondly.
So everyone can understand from the board's point of view, teachers really do influence us and touch us in ways that change our lives forever. So I won't make administration talk about their favorite teacher or one who impacted them, but Ms. Wright.
So definitely thank you to all of the administrators. The building administrators have worked so hard to make sure that their teachers and staff are appreciated. It's a lot of extra time, effort, planning, hours before, after cleanup, setup, things of that nature. So sometimes we forget that that's part of this, but the appreciation just doesn't magically appear. That these are the people who are putting in the extra time to make sure that happens. So I wanted to acknowledge our administrators for that. And I just wanted to do a shout out also to Mrs. Troutman, Mrs. Paul-Hamus, Mr. Drollinger, and Mrs. Sparrow for their hard work with the 3-8 exams that have happened, with ELA and math and planning for all of our students. Getting ready, we still have the 4 and 8 science tests to get through. And currently our ENL department, a shout out to them for their nicest lab testing, which is, kind of if you're not familiar with a lot of the ENL stuff, it's rather grueling. It's individual and it's a long time with each student, and it takes a lot of time to score and things of that nature. So I just appreciate everybody's efforts with that and wanted to make sure and acknowledge that. So. And I do have to give a shout out to Mrs. Franks, my 4th grade teacher. She was amazing, and we did tremendous out-of-the-box things as well, including I grew up in the Rochester area, going to theater and special experiences and things like that that we got to do that you just, in 4th grade at 9 years old, you're just like dressing up to go into the Eastman Theater in Rochester to, see, a Shakespearean thing that you've just done in 4th grade. You just think that, you're just like, I've arrived. You're all of 9.
Mr. Paskey.
Oh, my goodness.
What's going on in the high school?
Lots. I want to take a minute just to thank the whole admin team and Brad and Margie. This teacher and staff appreciation week has taken on a life of its own, but in a really good way, and it's bigger and better, and I have to say our staff just deserves it, and so I love our staff, and I think I speak for all of us that it's just it's a labor of love, and we're enjoying it a lot. We had a decision today, this past Friday, which went really well. Unfortunately, I was not here because I was with our spectator staff in Saratoga. We went and received the Best High School Newspaper Award from the New York State Press Association, which was outstanding. What's really cool is that our kids get to participate in workshops with renowned journalists from not just across our state, but across the country, and big name newspapers, New York Times, just name it. they're all there. They're sitting next to these people and participating and doing workshops with them, and then they have a nice luncheon, they get this award, and they all like clap for them, they stand up for them, and they're giving them their cards, like, we love the intern, come and intern, here's my card. It's pretty slick. So just congratulations to them. We've been selected for field tests, so we'll be giving field tests for 3 of our areas in May, which is not the best timing because we're preparing for our Regents exams, and we just started AP exams this week. So this week and next week are AP exams, so we're in full-blown AP mode, which is a lot. In tonight's agenda, you guys approved Nicole Kubacki to be our new guidance office secretary, so thank you for that. She's going to be starting tomorrow. If you have time, please stop in and say hi. We're going to have some goodies for her. In addition to all the other goodies we're having for everybody else, we're going to have a little welcome for her in our guidance office, which we now call the Student Services Suite. And I got to remember that because I keep calling it the guidance office. But thank you for that. We appreciate it. And I think all the other things that I wanted to say, you guys already hit through various other comments. So thank you. Great. I'm glad you guys are aboard. I appreciate that the budget's where it is, and so I appreciate you guys too. Thank you.
Teacher.
Thank you, Mr.
Oh my
President.
gosh, favorite teacher? It has to be a tie. Margaret Ruffman,
Yeah.
and Tom Harvey, who technically was not my teacher, but I went to him for like math help after school, and he is one of the reasons that I ended up going into math teaching, and I ended up student teaching with him. He passed away this year. But Margaret and Tom, 2 fantastic teachers. Harvey actually made me go to Margaret's class as a senior. He's like, you can't get out of high school without being in this woman's class. And it was an advanced English class, and I never took advanced English. I was like, what? I didn't even know there was advanced English. But loved every minute of it, turned me on to English, and I almost went the English route in college. Technical writing, I got really turned on to that, but I went with something like that. I'm glad I did. But 2 great teachers.
Yes. Ms. Trutman.
Well, we completed day 1 of our math assessments today. We'll be finishing that up tomorrow. It was a good day. We are in the heat of Quest. They've done their day 1, 1-day hike. And this next weekend, they're doing their 2-day hike, so let's say our thoughts for good weather. It'd be nice if there were no rain, and so the kids are very excited about that. We have a lot of staff who are participating, so we're excited for that. Shout out to our teachers again. They do a great job, and it's great to celebrate them and appreciate them.
Yes. Great.
Oh, and my favorite teacher would be Doug Zaney. Doug is a Fredonian. He and his wife live here, but he was my biology teacher at Pine Valley and my softball coach. And I had the utmost respect for him, and he believed in me like no other. And you couldn't help but believe in yourself when someone believes in you that much. So.
Yeah. Mr. Drollinger.
Yeah. So I want to thank the board for your support of field trips at the elementary level because they've returned full of steam. So our calendar is really full. So each year I do put in the budget, and thank you for approving that. So I'll highlight that. So upcoming for our 1st grade and 2nd grade students, they're going to go to the Audubon Nature Preserve in Jamestown. A little bit hands-on. They're going to be outside, and they really look forward to that. And all throughout the course of the year, the Audubon comes into our building and brings some materials to kind of get ready for this culminating event at the end of the year. Our 1st grade is also going to go to Midway State Park, which is a free field trip. It's funded by the State Parks Department, which is outstanding for our kids. 2nd grade, they're going to go down to the Erie Zoo and experience a little bit of the animals. They're looking forward to that. 3rd grade is going to Kids Day with the Bison Stadium, so that's just like a fun experience for the kids. Get them out of Fredonia, go see the ballpark and eat a hot dog, which is pretty cool. And 4th grade is going to ride the Maid of the Mist. I'm going to go on this one because it's actually a new boat this year. They switched to all electric boats. And some of the 4th grade teachers have begun that conversation about why they made the switch from the old diesel boats to electric ones and the impact on the environment. So I'm curious about that. So that's going to be a fun one for me. And 4th grade is also going to the Lake Erie State Park where they do a really cool like team building series of challenges, and that also is free funded by the New York State Parks Department. So there's a lot of good events coming up, and that calendar is pretty full as a result of that. So the kids are excited. My favorite teacher was my high school math teacher, Mr. Ganschow. He was pretty cool. He had like a surround sound system in his classroom, and then when I became a science teacher at Dunkirk Middle School, I hooked up my classroom with surround sound, and it was like the place to be. So
You were the guy.
yeah, so there you go. Yeah, that's what I am. Thanks.
Ms. Farrell.
Okay, so last Thursday, we had our opening unified basketball game. It was a really huge turnout. It was very exciting.
Wonderful.
Fredonia won the game in the very last seconds, broke a tie, scored the last basket, so pretty cool. If you've never been to a unified game, or if you have been to one, you understand like this really amazing positive energy that's in the gym and the positive sense of community and inclusivity that comes with that. So if you haven't had that opportunity, the next home game is Monday, May 9th, this coming Monday at 5 o'clock in the high school gym, so hopefully some of you can be there. So along the lines of inclusivity and building students to be their best selves, we're having some conversation at the high school around an inclusive phys ed class that captures sort of the guidelines and the spirit of unified sports. We're also in the planning phases for summer school, or in the world of special ed, we call that extended school year, which is programming specifically for students with disabilities who are eligible for a 30-day special ed summer program. And that eligibility is based on the establishment of substantial regression in skills without continued instruction. And that's all done by the remarkable special ed staff and their data collection on students towards their goals. It's a regulatory requirement. For a lot of years, we were reliant on BOCES for those services, but we've been running our own program here for at least the last 10 years. So a lot of planning going into that. We are in that final stretch, and there's a lot to do. And one last thing, last week, myself, 5 of our building administrators, and 13 other selected staff members were trained and certified in a program called CPI, which is basically Crisis Prevention Methods. It's a 2-day program. It's offered by BOCES, and it was a long-awaited training. We have been trying to get this training since the fall, and due to COVID and a lot of different reasons, we just weren't able to get it scheduled until just recently. But those of us that were trained are now certified for 2 years in preventive and interventive methods for managing student crisis situations. So that's what I've got.
Great. Ms. Pipe, it appears to me that you have some paint spilled on your shirt.
Excuse me. That is unicorns and rainbows and sunshine butterflies, which is black, of course.
Of course, of course.
Of course. Speaking of which, we have our parent orientations coming up. So pre-K parent orientation is next Thursday, May 12th, in person, which we're very excited about, 6 p.m. And the kindergarten parent orientation is the 12th at 7 p.m. So we're excited to have parents to come in and tell them about our programs, meet the teachers, and hear about what life is like at Wheelock.
It's all good. Yes. Yeah. And the shirt is?
This is actually a teacher made for me. For pre-K is sunshine and butterflies, and kindergarten is unicorn and rainbows. And then, of course,
We are Wheelock. Okay. Okay. Okay.
Teacher Appreciation Week, so, I do have to put a shout out too to our PTO. We worked collaboratively as an administrative team, which was wonderful, to create a great week for the teachers and staff. And this morning, much to my surprise, a mom came in with a wagon full of coffee and donuts and bagels and muffins we weren't even expecting. So to top off an already great week, our PTO stepped up and surprised all of us with even more goodies. So
Great.
We're all eating well this week.
Mr. Forbes.
I don't have anything, but I'll throw in on the educator part.
Okay.
There's a number of them across the board that I think I would say were favorites, but I would have to say that Dr. Sandy Grazak, who was my advisor and professor in the administrative program at Brockport, she knew how to get that out of me. And also I have to mention my mother, who was an administrator and a principal and a teacher other than the year she taught me Spanish at Manzeni, Cardinal Manzeni, which for those not familiar was a Catholic high school. And she felt the need to give me extra work and call me extra amount of time so that the other students didn't think I was getting answers at home. So there's that.
You know, I have a feeling that some of the teachers we've talked about aren't with us anymore. But the ones who are, I have a feeling they know that we're talking about them and appreciate them. So hopefully that's the case. So, Ms. Slagle, anything to add?
I might be the only person with a Pennsylvania teacher, and I don't want any jokes about that. But yeah, Mr. Zarger was my favorite teacher, and it would surprise some of you that know me to know that he was a physics teacher. Math is not my strong suit, but I actually took physics and advanced physics with him, which I did nothing with, but it taught me that a really great educator can inspire you to want to do something that is outside of your comfort zone, and that was certainly what he did. So I never would have thought that I could make it through a physics class, and like I said, I did that and advanced. So it was an interesting experience, and like I said, I just appreciated that aspect of it. That's, I might not have taken the physics away from it, but I took that lesson away. So
That's awesome. Yeah. Great, thank you.
Can we go back to Ms. Farrow and Mrs. Piper? Tell us their education.
Did they cheat on
I
us?
forgot, but.
You forgot.
I did, I'm sorry. There's so many people. I would say my first grade teacher, her name was Mrs. Day. She's long gone from this world, taught me to love reading, and I loved her deeply in first grade. But ultimately, my dad was a teacher. I did not have him in class. He taught in the same middle school that I went to, and he was my favorite teacher and taught me the love of education and the power of it.
Thank you.
I would say I went to Mayville School and graduated with a whopping 29 kids back in the day. And my favorite, actually, educator was a librarian, Mr. Hammond, who also was passed, but I was a yearbook editor and student council president. I didn't explain that, I believe, but so he just gave me my own office, and like Margie said, believed in me. So gave me a lot of self-confidence and some great things.
Great. There's one left.
Oh, man, there's a few, but I would say Jerry Wayne, fifth grade teacher, MJ Fletcher in Jamestown, New York, taught me if you want to motivate someone, build a positive relationship with them. And that was during a time in education when there was sort of a lot of demand and a little rougher
So is the stick, not the
motivational
carrot.
methods, and he was the first person that I said, oh, there's actually a different way for this relationship to happen. Okay. So I've carried that with me since fifth grade. Good guy.
Okay, thank you all. So we have the anticipation to enter into executive session to discuss matters pertaining to collective bargaining negotiations. If I could have a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Ms. Hahn, and a second.
Second.
Ms. Gullo. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, we are in executive session at 7:34. Thank you all.